Here we see a portrait of Edgar Allan Poe, and he's going to be an American poet and short story author who is known for his gothic, dark, and gloomy works. Some of his most familiar works include The Raven and the Telltale Heart, and his works in many ways reflect his own life. His mother passed away when he was young. His father abandoned him. He was then with a foster family. And he continuously caused trouble. He got himself into debt. His foster family became agitated with him, and he ended up moving in with distant relatives, fell in love with his cousin. They married, and she died, and he never really got over that loss. But throughout his life, he desperately is on a quest for happiness, and he never finds it. So the poem we're going to look at today really can connect to him and his life. And the poem is called Eldorado, and it's one of his later poems. It's one of the last ones he wrote. And Eldorado in Spanish is going to mean golden one. It's also written in a time period of the California gold rush where people were running to California to try to find this gold, which would bring them happiness. And Edgar Allan Poe writes about this journey to find it. So let's try to see if we can analyze what he's saying through this poetry. Right off the beginning, you have some vocabulary terms that might be new to you. Bedight is going to be how you're dressed, and gallant is going to be noble and confident. So it reads, Eldorado by Edgar Allan Poe, published in 1849. Gaily bedight, a gallant knight, in sunshine and in shadow, had journeyed long, singing a song, in search of Eldorado. But he grew old, this knight so bold, and over his heart a shadow fell as he found no spot on the ground that looked like Eldorado. And as his strength failed him at length, he met a pilgrim shadow. Shadow, he said, where can it be, this land of Eldorado? Over the mountains of the moon, down the valley a shadow. Ride, boldly ride, the shade replied, if you seek Eldorado. So we have this knight out to search for gold, and it's not sure where to find it. And we see a repeated term of shadow. So in the first stanza, it says, in sunshine and in shadow, where shadow means just what we would usually imply it to mean, shade, darkness. We get to the second stanza, and it says, and over his heart a shadow. So now over this knight's heart, a shadow comes, and that's kind of a darkening. He realizes that he can't find this destination. He's growing old. This knight so bold, and over his heart a shadow fell as he found no spot on the ground that looked like Eldorado. So he searched out looking for it. And now he's growing old and hasn't found it. As we continue to read, we see shadow again in the third stanza. And now, what do you think? It's speaking, this shadow. So many are going to connect this into being some kind of ghost-like figure. Some people think ghost might connect to death. And then in the fourth stanza, we see shadow. Oh, sorry. There we go. I'm sorry. We see in the third stanza that it's also capitalized and personified almost. So then we have a connection to the valley of the shadow in the fourth stanza, also capitalized. And that can be an allusion to the Bible. That would be the fearful valley where death often takes place. But he says to ride boldly if you seek Eldorado. So oftentimes it's connected to this golden place, or gold, wonderful place maybe happens after death, we watch this knight grow old, and although he couldn't find Eldorado here on Earth, finds it towards his end of life, towards his death. So perhaps Poe was making a connection to his own life there as well. We do see irony in here. Irony is what you're not expecting. And oftentimes when you read something, if we look at the rhyme scheme, it's very songish, it's very nursery rhymish. It has a great rhyme scheme of, if you look at the last word of each line and you look at what does and doesn't rhyme, it's going to be A, because bedight and night rhyme, and then shadow's a different rhyme, so that would be B. Long doesn't rhyme, would be C, but long rhymes with song, so C. And then we have Eldorado, which rhymes with shadow, so B. So it's A, B, C, C, B. And that rhyme scheme, it's almost like a nursery rhyme. It's very dun 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 dun. It feels like a song. Gaily bedight, a gallant knight in sunshine and in shadow, had journeyed long, singing a song in search of Eldorado. So it has this beat in this rhyme scheme that's uplifting. It sounds like it's going to be positive. However, it ends where this Eldorado isn't found on Earth, although perhaps it's positive that it could be found in the afterlife. And the rhyme scheme works because Eldorado is a legend. So it has a mythical structure. And it is also almost like cautionary, like nursery rhymes. They caution you about things that you might find in the world. And also having this fun, childish rhyme, it's simple. It really contrasts against the tragic, at times almost hopeless ending that we come to. But basically, this poem is saying that this knight's in search of happiness throughout his life. He grows old looking for it. He doesn't find it. He does become hopeless. And at the end, it's left up to interpretation of if he finds it in the afterlife or not. So it's a poem that makes you think. It's a poem that really reflects Poe's life of being abandoned, not having anyone, losing his wife, a lot of hopelessness where he may have been looking and searching for something positive but never finds it.